the other part of it too is if you're doing these iso extremes correctly, there really is minimal residual fatigue. I'm going to give you an example. It's crazy. The other day, I was doing it with my son, and 20 minutes after, I'm like, let's go out and play basketball. Now, when I got done doing it, I was like, oh my God, there's no way at 50 I'm going to be able to get out there and play basketball. I was completely fine. My son then came in and did about 50 jumps in the living room trying to touch the ceiling. So there was no residual fatigue. I called him this morning and said, how you feel? He goes, I feel great. There's no soreness at all. So if you do it correctly, there won't be a lot of soreness. What creates soreness is muscles opposing each other, friction components, all these things when the body's not doing what it's supposed to do creates this undue fatigue and the DOMS and all that stuff. You do it the correct way and your body's operating at velocity, there really isn't much soreness. When you're doing stuff, intent matters. Intent matters. And then as we get into all the DB stuff, that'll be cool of how you package it and go through each part of what we're actually training.
And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why we went into the DB stuff is because we could actually figure out what workouts to give kids based on what their nervous system was doing. Whereas with Jay's, it was one size fits all.
You know what? Would I start with the bands? I think that's the question. Yeah, I think I might. I mean, most of the kids that I can't feel hamstring engagement in a wall squat or in a lunge, because I walk around and touch. I want to make sure that they're recruiting their hamstring. I will put the band on and do that just so they can start to feel it.
And there's a question from Megan. Can you go into more detail about altitude drops, how you train them, guidelines for beginners?
I'll tell you what. So I can tell you this. You're automatically going to land safe from your vertical jump height. So if you go into the gym and you measure your vertical jump height at 24 inches, I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to land safely from 24 inches. Now, would I start underneath that? Absolutely. 6 inches, 12 inches, starting to land in different positions and land softly and stop. They'll land and they'll sink into a position that they want to be into. You call the position out you want them to land in, let them stop in that position. We'll go into a ton of that in DB stuff. And that's basically what the system was built around, is altitude drops. And again, an altitude drop in its simplest form could be just like an elevator drop. I'm here. That's an altitude drop, right? I haven't left the ground, but my body was free falling and I had to stop it.
Hey Dan, do you want to go through, because I remember, I should grab the book, my folder, but he had a progression of the ISOs of how he did it. And I remember there were, one of the earlier programs that we had, there were 7 basics. What was the progression that he started with?
There wasn't a particular order in which he did them in. Well, it depends because he's changed it a lot.
So what were the basic 7? So we've got.
I think there's a push-up, a lunge, squat, the sub-scap. We haven't talked about that.
You haven't talked about sub-scap.
Just hanging. You grab a bar, your hands are parallel, and you're hanging. You're hanging. Okay? And the movement of that would just be pulling your scapula down. Okay? But you're hanging. And so it was sub-scap.
And again, if you think about his upper body positions, it's all scapular positions. Can you stabilize your scap in those 3 different positions? Arms out in front, arms out above your head, and arms at your side.
Prime anatomical position. And that's what DB calls it, right? So one-legged squat, the bicep, and then the extreme hamstring stretch was, let's see if I can do this. You see my feet? My feet would be like this, 45-degree angle, okay? 45-degree angle with my feet. My arms are crossed. I would go chin to my chest, and I would begin to roll down, trying to get my elbows to the ground, and I'm trying to pick my tailbone up off the air, in the air, and curl all the way down and hang there. And then when I come up, I bend my knees, and I come up. That would be an extreme hamstring stretch. So I think those were the 7 that he implemented. And then bicep curls was extreme bicep, where I'm doing a preacher curl. I'm extending my tricep to lengthen my bicep, holding weight. again, but as we go through, so all these exercises that came out in the order he wanted to do them in, I have thousands of programs that he's written where there's not one of the 7, or there's 4 of the 7 and 3 different ones. So ISO extremes are pulling yourself into position regardless of the exercise you're doing. You can be as creative as you want. Jay talked about shutters. Chris, do you remember shutters?
I remember shutters.
So shutters is a full body contraction followed by a full body relaxation. It would be very similar to if you walked up behind somebody and went boo, and they went ah, like that. That's a shudder. Full body contraction. He believes it resets your nervous system and it gets your nervous system ready to train. So he would do shutters before big lifts, big sprints. So a shudder would be this. Again, it's nice and relaxed, full body, boom, contraction. And as fast as you contract, you relax.
Dan, are you using this year round, or is this a different phase of training? Do you do this at certain times?
Philosophies in every one of my training sessions at any time. You'll see some type of it, whether it be an extreme iso, a rebound, an altitude, whatever it might be. How about another great exercise, a tango rep? Okay.
I forgot about tangos.
Yeah. So here's a tango rep. So you'd have a bar, and then you can create any exercise you want. The bar would be lying across your thighs like this. And if you go to my Instagram, I think there's a couple kids on there doing it. And all you do, the bar's not moving. You're going to hold your hands away from it, and you're going to be away from the bar. You're going to come up through the bar without any hesitation and pop it. And you're going to actually dance with the bar. You're popping the bar to bring it right back up. So you can do it in a squat rack at different heights. Okay. You can do it. You create the exercise. You can do it. As long as you are going through the intended bar without any break in movement.
So your hands are off the bar, or your body is off the bar. You're hitting the bar and then moving that with force.
Instagram and scroll through there. I think there's a few different things that we do. Actually, the guy that runs my gym was completely trained in Jay's system. He's a freak show. He's 30 years old now, but he was a 40-inch vertical jump guy, 4'3", 2 1/4 for 25 repetitions. He is freak, complete freak. He could do those falling push-ups where he's standing straight up, fall onto 2 plyometric boxes, rebound himself back up. It was crazy. If you get on there, he does some crazy stuff.
And who's the guy that you had a number of years ago that set the bench press combine record, but he was too short?
Yeah, Chris Amo.
Chris Amo. How much of the upper body stuff did you do with him, and what impact do you think it had on him? What did he do? How many reps did he do? 37, 45?
On the YouTube, he did 245, 43 times. So I'll tell you a quick story. So we're at the big conference. I'm speaking at it. He's probably about 3 weeks away from going to his combine to try out. And I love to piss people off when I talk, because getting strong is a pretty easy part of being a trainer. Getting fast is a whole different aspect, and I'm sure Chris would attest to that. So I have him at this clinic I bring him to, and I got 2 1/4 set up on the bench press. I've got 3 plyometric boxes, of which he's going to do his iso push-ups. So we're talking, and at the time, I believe it was LSU's nose guard, Glenn Dorsey. And if someone could look that up on the internet, I think Glenn Dorsey did 2 1/4, 38 times maybe. Don't quote me on that. So whatever the number was, I asked all the strength coaches in the front row that were bald in the goatee, what's the record for the combine this year? And the guy's like, it's Glenn Dorsey or whatever his name is, plays at LSU. So while I'm talking, I have my guy, Chris, holding an isometric push-up. And he held it for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. I got done talking. I told him to stop. He rested for 1 minute. He went over to the 2 1/4, and he did it. And when he got to 30, the entire place started counting. 31, 32. He did it 42 times that day after he held a 4 minute and 30 second iso push-up. It was ridiculous. And I said, it's easy to make somebody strong. If you just understand how the body works, when to relax, when to contract, you can go a long period of time. And he wasn't the most gifted athlete. I mean, he was too short to play at the next level. He was only 6 foot. He's probably about 280 pounds. But he really had a perfect body for the bench press, short arms and big barrel chest. And
Not perfect for defensive line in the NFL.
Yeah, no, he had alligator arms. But it was one of the first times that in front of people, I showed people that this stuff's it's not a joke. I mean, if you know how to do it and you do it with intent, and there's nobody who would train harder than this kid. We have a YouTube clip that's out there where the kid drops the bar after 5 repetitions, hits it on his chest. I'm sitting on the other bench because I'm so used to him doing 50 repetitions that I run over, I go to guard sitting on his chest. He presses it off himself and does 30 more reps. We've done the neurological stuff with him. He's put on red glasses and bench pressed 2 1/4 50 times. We've vibrated him, we've cooled him, we've done all kinds of crazy shit with him. But that's where it gets fun, man. You're playing around with the neurological system, and sometimes it gives you a tremendous kickback.
Do you structure isometrics? How do you structure large isometrics in team settings, say 30 to 50 athletes? With my football teams, we usually spend the first 2 weeks doing the isometrics, and we just get into a giant circle in the field house or in the gym, and you can walk around and see everyone. It's pretty easy to walk through and see everyone how they're doing it and give, feedback.
I'll tell you what I love doing. I love putting people in their isometric lunge position and doing curl presses with towels. And I do it off a command. Go, go. And they're all moving in unison. And it's teaching them how to move. I mean, how to turn on and turn off at velocity.
Blake Willis wants to know, did you go through the whole PowerPoint?
I really did, yeah. And as I get better at this, guys, like the DB stuff, as we're moving through this, I'll start putting up that other stuff too. Well, I've got a ton of videos. I know Chris has got a ton of videos. Maybe he'll be responsible for sharing next time because I'm terrible at it. I apologize for that. It's awesome. It's going to get crazier too as we get into the next 2 of these. I think the DB stuff is great. Again, there's a lot of mystery around who he was, what he was. Don't worry so much about that. Worry about the product that he put out there, which is probably the foundation of a lot of good programs that are out there. And then getting into Chris's foot stuff, I'll do some eye stuff on the following Tuesday.
The square one system, what separates that from RPR? I don't know what square one system is.
I'll tell you
that's Dan. You work for square one, Dan.
Square one is completely motor control restoration. Really not much to do with what RPR does. But I think it's a great complement. And I'm going to definitely be talking about that a lot more in the next coming weeks. I think the two things together work like this. I mean, it's pretty powerful.